I just... Yeah, sure. Pedro, I'll just say a few words and then I'll call to you, and then you can go to Mayor Loeb.
Okay, Amanda, it's Jace here, just about to get cracking.
Audio level, testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Can you hear me there, Matt?
I can hear you. Yep.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome from Thursday Island. Testing 1, 2, 3. We're all good? Well, we've just come from what is a very important meeting with representatives from the Cape and the Torres Strait. And there's some outcomes that we are keen to back them and back them hard. The mayors have asked for an independent inquiry into the provision of health services in the Cape and the Torres Strait. And we are backing them on that, boots and all. This can't be Queensland Health judging Queensland Health. We don't need another inside job. We need health outcomes improved, and that'll only happen with transparency. So we are backing them on this call. Queenslanders deserve a world-class health system no matter where they live. A little while ago, I received a copy of a letter signed by chairs, mayors and representatives in the local area. It told of the dire state of health services in this region. Now, this isn't the fault of the frontline doctors and nurses, I can assure you. It is a generation of poor planning and poor delivery, and we are keen to drive the outcomes that people locally deserve. In a moment, I'm going to hand over to Pedro Stephen, who's the chair of the Torres Strait Regional Authority. He'll introduce Mayor Loban after that. But I just want to make this point. This is situation critical, and I'm calling on the Premier and the Minister to get here immediately, listen and act. There must be an independent inquiry into the provision of health services here. It cannot be an inside job. The terms of reference needs to be driven by the local people. They need a seat at the table on the review. This cannot be Queensland Health judging Queensland Health. We must end the culture of cover-ups. There has to be transparency. There has to be health outcomes improved. This letter struck a chord with me. It was personal, it was raw, and it deserved a response. We raised it on the floor of Parliament, and there's been some developments as a result of that. But I wanted to come here firsthand and listen, and you will today hear the stories from a chair and a mayor who are passionate about their local community and want to see world-class health services for the people locally. Pedro, over to you, mate. Thank you very much for today.
Yep. Thank you, David. I wish to acknowledge the support that I have from my colleagues, elected colleagues here in the Torres Strait and NPA. And I think it's very timely that, acknowledging the prompt response from the leader of the opposition to our request. And I think that we're now in this environment of speaking about a voice, and I believe this is where we stand in the gap for our people, because to actually echo this sentiment or the voice from our grassroots people about not only just that the service that we're being receiving, but highlighting the very aspiration when we first got involved about 3 decades ago to say to Queensland Health that we would actually not only be the recipient of the service, but we'll be the provider of the service. So we would actually sit in true partnership in designing the actual the mode of service to be delivered in this area. And I think that it's really important and it's crucial timing for us to stand up. And I use the example that people have been dying at this crossroad, and we've been asking for traffic lights to be installed. And it's only now that there's true response from government to actually set up, a real traffic control within, and I'm talking about the traffic control from our people leaving our home to come to the service, that we should be get better and to come back to our homeland instead of what our people are doing now in our community is actually coming to get the service, and they're coming back in wooden boxes. And the days are over now for us to continue to bury our people, and that's the crucial timing for us standing in this gap and really raising and identify the gap for our people here in this place. So it's not just we would come up with problems that with Queensland Health, but we come up with solution to say that in the last 3 decades that we have actually been in partners to sit, and it's about transparency. And I really support that we've actually put our aspiration in black and white, and we've got response, and the frightening response that we're receiving at the moment, that there is a review, and that review will be done by Queensland Health, and we are not satisfied with that. We've called for an independent review, and that's the only way to move forward. And that's been expressed by my other colleagues as well, and Mayor Loban from Torres Strait Council can echo what I've just said. That's all.
Yeah, thanks. Going on what Chair Stephen said, it needs to be a review. It's been too long. I thank Senator Fully to bring it to our attention. 10 years is a long time for having your community. A lot of kids, young kids are dying. So I think we need an independent review. And if there's a terms of reference or a committee formed, we want to have our people sitting on the table. Leaders and experts of Torres Strait Islanders sitting on the table, grassroots, so we can actually help Queensland Health to fix this problem that we have in the death rates in the Torres Strait and NPA. Thank you.
I think we might have, just hope we might have some. Is it back on? Can everyone hear us on the phone? Amanda, can you hear us there? Amanda, have you got us? Okay, well...
I'm not Amanda, but I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Well, you want to go first? We'll go to the local. We'll go to the local journos first.
David, a lot has happened, as the chair's mentioned. They're about 30 years. Why raising it up? Why raising it up now?
Oh, the letter struck a chord with me, and it's not every day you receive a letter where respected people in a community will tell their story of people dying prematurely, of a breakdown of services, of people making a decision about whether or not to get treatment, about the cost of repatriating their body. It moved me to tears, and I immediately got on the phone, and we had a meeting with the chair and the mayors and the other representatives, and I asked what they wanted, and they said they wanted a spotlight on it to drive change. And I made them a commitment that we would take it to the floor of Parliament, and we did. And you will know locally that as a result there's been some personnel changes locally, and I won't go into that too much at the hospital, but there is a missing piece of the puzzle, and that is an independent review. And only a visit by the Premier and the Minister and a commitment to open it up and do it properly will cut it. It has to be an independent review, and it has to drive the change that's desired.
Can I ask the
Yeah.
chair of TSRA, with the terms of reference, what are your thoughts as to what the leadership would like that to look like?
Well, I think that we wanted to make sure that in this present environment, when there's rolling out of the torch, and they're talking about Commonwealth fundings that is coming to Queensland Health, it does not actually narrow any specific thing, and it's not just about community control. It's the holistic approach where we know that Queensland Health, and I've been, served as a past chair of the Health Council, where I can testify today, it was the work of the Health Council that upgrade all the freezer on the outer islands for fresh fruit and vegetables, housing, the actually upgrade of the sewage and the water system that came because of the data that came from community through health. And I think so health is not just the community control or a specific narrow approach. And that's what we have to be around, sitting on that table, to make sure that we cover everything. I think the terminology that was used then is that the service of health and the involvement of grassroots people is about, your whole well-being. It's not just looking at one specific sector of whether it's from a health perspective or community perspective. It's about true partnership, that you sit there and be transparent, not only to each other, but to the people who's actually rely on you to actually make that service better for them.
What does the recent state government budget reflect to you in terms of, the way the state came out with the budget? Is it really does it really address the problems you're talking about today?
Specifically about the actual budget that the state roll out, I think that because we live in this region, you can't compare the cost of actually delivering service in the Torres Strait to anywhere else in Queensland. If we're talking about, especially the closest would be our isolated Aboriginal community. But here in the Torres Strait, the cost of delivering that service, and I think that where we actually, I'm not familiar on the actual budget that was actually rolled out itself. I think that, but we've identified that through the different strategic plans and the conversation that we've had with health and with other service provider, and that is the specific role of TSRA to monitor services in the Torres Strait, including health. But health, like I said before, cover housing, cover employment. It's a holistic approach of that, the all well-being of that person. And I think that budget alone, money alone, cannot actually solve a problem. It's actually who's the partners in this region, how we work together, and that's what it counts. And we've gone through several initiatives where we talk about integrated service delivery, because you've got over 30 government departments, and to actually deliver services such as health, you need everybody actually on the same, singing from the same chorus sheet. And I think that moving forward, you need everyone on deck. And the budget is not just moving furnitures around the Titanic, that's for sure.
Might throw to the journos on the line. Sure.
All right, who have we got there in Brizzy?
Sarah Elks from the Australian newspaper.
Hey, Sarah.
Hi, guys. Can I put a question to both Chair Stevens and Mayor Loban, please? We learned last week that in July 2021, Warren Entsch organised for one of his political donors to fly to Thursday Island to receive a Pfizer COVID jab that he wasn't eligible for. Can I just ask both of you what you make of that, and whether that's an example of, I suppose, people from the mainland taking advantage of Torres Strait health services?
Sorry, my actual response up front is I'm very disappointed that does happen, but it's not the first time that we've actually had, but it's also the aspiration, and that's what I was saying about health service in the Torres Strait. When we actually discuss whether we should actually adopt the Aboriginal AMS's model, the Aboriginal medical service model, we opt to say that we stay with Queensland Health because it's about the aspiration of the Torres model of care that we actually own that service, so we actually deliver that service as well. And I think that it's always be where we sit on the gateway. The service that we offering is actually, we're not talking just delivering health service to Indigenous people, but we're talking about delivering health service to all people of our community.
I think I have one from Jacqueline here.
Oh yeah. Just having your questions, I'm pretty disappointed. I mean, for too long, the Torres Strait Islanders and NPark was death rates are increasing, not decreasing, and we need a big inquiry in it. And it's over 10 years now, and I think we do need something to come in here and start finding out what's going on.
Okay, Jacqueline, I think I had a question from Jacqueline on the line.
Yeah, I just had a question in regards to Health Director General Sean Drummond calling for the criminalisation of whistleblowers. Is it appropriate that he remains in that role?
It shows that the culture that Peter Culdrake identified remains as bad, if not worse, today as what it did then. And nothing changes because the government doesn't value transparency. And, Mr Drummond can answer for himself, but I'll make this point, that one way or another, either a minister didn't know what was going on or did know and is now trying to backtrack. But either way, it stinks of a bad culture. And the culture is permeating because of a Premier that doesn't have her heart in the job and ministers that don't administer their department properly. And the loser is the Queensland taxpayer who doesn't get the service, and the loser are the frontline public servants who just want to do their job. And the culture of cover-up has to end.
Do you worry that people may not come forward, given this has been made public now, his position on whistleblowing?
Yep, let me make it very clear to every single public servant out there, we have your back, and we will do everything we can to allow you, through the public interest disclosure and through the floor of Parliament, to expose dodgy behaviour. And whether or not a few ministers and directors general are more worried about their reputation, we're worried about the reputation of frontline services for Queenslanders and for the public servants who deliver them. And we're not going to have a bar of it. Journalists deserve to do their job. Public servants deserve to operate without the entrenched culture of fear that Professor Culdrake outlined, and this shows that the behaviour continues unchecked. We have a Premier who doesn't have her heart in the job and ministers who have checked out of doing their job. And the loser are the Queensland taxpayers who need the services and the frontline public servants who are operating under that environment. And we feel for both of them.
In attempts to restore trust from the public, should the Director General be let go from his position? The ministers can hold their Directors General to account. I'll make this point. We won't take a backward step in allowing journalists to do their job and public servants to be able to operate without the fear of ministers and Directors Generals breathing down their neck. And that's the only way that we're going to heal the services that Queenslanders are seeing erode before them.
I think we had a question from Majura from the Courier Mail.
Oh, hi. Just a question for Mr. Stephen and potentially Mayor Logan as well.
Yep.
I think there was discussion about the need for more local people to be on the board of the HHS. Could they just expand on that?
Yes. I think that, I don't think, I know that has been the aspiration of our people, stemming back to my last term as the chair of the Health Council was in 2011. And it was actually, the governance model was set up to actually have representatives from our cluster to actually be on the board. And that certainly, since the hospital board has been established, and now when I refer to the governance structure before. It was Torres and NPA. Now it's actually Torres and Cape. And I think that there needs to be any service to Indigenous people. Majority of the board should represent Indigenous people sitting on the board. Whether you're a community rep or whether you are an expert on your field, that you sit there. So the board membership should reflect 3/4 of the membership should be Indigenous.
Okay. There's been, I guess, the ongoing conversation about the voice to Parliament and the upcoming referendum. Is it your view that the voice and ultimately the structures of a local voice and such would help places like the Torres Strait, like Thursday Island, in pushing forward, these kinds of discussions?
Look, I think that this is a perfect example that to demonstrate right up to the Prime Minister, or right up to this concept about the voice. And if our voice are not heard at this level here, how then are we going to expect our voice to be heard in the aspiration that after the referendum?
Thank you.
We had Rachel from the ABC.
Rachel, DC here. Are you there, and who would you like to speak with? Rachel might have dropped out.
We've got Tim from Channel 9.
All my questions have been answered, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on the line?
Yeah, Matt from Cape York Weekly here.
Hey, Matty, how are you, mate?
Good, thank you. David, this one's for you. I guess we've heard nothing from our member for Cook, Cynthia Louis. It's not an unusual thing. What would you say to local people about our members' performance in this space? I mean, we've had some issues around the birthing suites in Cooktown and Weipa. Obviously, we had a child die at Bamberg Hospital, and yet our member for Cook's sort of silent in the whole thing. What would you say to locals in Cape York and the Torres Strait?
Well, Matt, it's not me who the local member has to answer to. It's the community, and right now the community is crying out for a whole lot better, and that's why I'm here, and I'm not going to make it personal against a local member of Parliament. She can conduct herself the way she needs to, but I'll just make the point. While you've got women in Cooktown who aren't getting the treatment they need because they're fearful of being sent to Cairns to have a baby, you've got people not going to Cairns from the Cape and the Torres Shire because they are concerned about the cost of repatriating their body to come back. When you've got a breakdown in communities when it comes to law and order in places like Mareeba, well, I'm hearing the message loud and clear, and that's why I'm here, and I'm fighting for better. And whether that's a world-class health system, whether that's more police and the laws to back them up, whether that's finally getting the housing to be able to bring people to these communities to serve the regions, I'm listening to the messages, and I'm determined to do better for these communities, and that's where I'd rather focus my commentary on.
And just to follow up, we've had the CEO of the Torres and Cape HHS resign last week. A lot of people I speak to say that she's made a scapegoat of herself, and that clearly, they think that there's room for improvement in the health service, but that Bev Hamilton had been failed by the government. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, only an independent investigation into the quality of health services throughout the Cape and the Torres Strait will show that. And before we talk about workforce delivery, the first focus has to be on an independent review to work out why we are failing these regions so badly. And nothing short of an independent review will cut it. To hear that there are mutterings being made about an internal Queensland Health review, well, that sends a shiver up my spine, and the mayors and the chair made that message really, really clear. Do not underestimate how significant today's development is. Today, mayors And a chair and respected people in the community have said with one strong, clear message that enough is enough, and there has to be a blowtorch put over the entire provision of health services for this region. Like, that is significant, and we are backing them. And only if they are involved with developing the terms of reference, only if they are involved with driving the review, and only if the Premier and the Minister come here firsthand and listen and drive it, will we get the health service that these people deserve.
Excellent, thank you. That's all I have.
Thanks very much for dialing in. Anyone else on the line?
Oh, Mr. Chris Foley, it's Sarah Elks here again from The Australian. I just wanted to pose to you that question that I put to Chair Stevens and Mayor Loban, please, about the Cairns resident being, getting the Pfizer jab on Thursday Island. The leaders both described it as very disappointing. What did you make of that situation?
Well, that's a matter for Mr. Ench. And you've known, Sarah, throughout my time as Leader of the Opposition, I have never run commentary on other levels of government. You've asked me, and there have been times that I've been very tempted to, but I never have. My focus is on an economy built on the back of small and family business, service delivery for every Queenslander, no matter where they live, and integrity in government. And that has been my laser-like focus. And I'm not cherry picking. That has been from day one what my mantra has been. And I don't comment about other levels of government. That's a matter for them.
And you're still confident that Yolandi Ench is the right pick for Cairns for the LNP? Is that what the local branch thinks as well?
Yes. And as I said to you the other day, her record as a humanitarian, as Cairns Businesswoman of the Year, as someone who believes in helping the most vulnerable in the community, has been applauded, acknowledged, supported by both sides of politics. The only thing that changed is she's put her hand up to serve in public life. That's the only thing that's changed.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks very, very much. Thanks, guys. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.